Life doesn't always have to be so hard, and every day doesn't have to be a struggle. In this week's talk, Reverend Wendy discusses the law of least effort from Deepak Chopra's book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. Reverend Wendy shows how personal responsibility and acceptance can come together to make our lives move more smoothly.
Don't you feel so relaxed right now? Just a beautiful blessing, a prayer sung to us. And it really fits with the message this morning. If you haven't been with us for a while, let me let you know that we have been studying together Deepak Chopra's book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And today we are examining the 4th spiritual law, which is the law of least effort. The law of least effort. Say that with me, please. The law of least effort. Doesn't that sound good? It sounds so good. I had an aha moment this morning as I was looking through my notes that, Wendy, it doesn't say the law of no effort. So there is some effort involved, but it is the law of least effort, or as it is sometimes talked about in Taoist philosophy, Wu Wei, effortless effort. So yes, there's some effort, but it's a different kind of effort. It's not an effort that is struggling. It's not an effort that is resistant. There is work, but it is work that comes from a place of flow, a place of fluidity. And one of the best examples or areas that offers many examples of this idea is just looking at nature, watching how nature does what nature does. Grass doesn't try to grow. It just grows. Birds don't try to fly. They simply fly. Fish don't try to swim, they simply swim. Flowers don't try to blossom, they simply blossom. What is that about? It's about each of these things continuing to be what it is through all the changes of its evolution. Implicit within every living organism, every living being, is a blueprint of what that thing is. And to the extent that that thing lives out of the evolution of that blueprint, we would say it is living Wu Wei. We would say it is expressing effortless effort. We would say that it is following the law of least effort. What a different way for you and for me to really practice living our lives, to live from that which we truly are. Remember the expression, to not be a square peg in a round hole, and what effort it takes to try to force, because you have to try to force it, a square peg in a round hole. So many times in our lives, we step away from who and what we really are naturally. And to the extent that we do that, we not only do a disservice to others, we certainly do a disservice to ourselves. And to that extent, to the degree that we are not being true to who and what we truly are by nature, by divine nature, to that extent, we are living our lives expending a greater deal of effort and energy simply to live. So Deepak says that these are 7 spiritual laws of success, and it's important that we are on somewhat the same page in terms of what we mean by success. Success absolutely includes an expansion of the experience of happiness, of joy, of well-being. Our lives are meant to work well. It doesn't mean that there won't be problems from time to time, but our lives are meant to work well. Success also includes the ever-expanding progression and forward movement toward goals that are worthy of us as children of God. And when we understand that there's a different way to live our lives toward the fulfillment of those things I've just mentioned, once we have learned that there's a different way to live, it is incumbent upon us to make choices that are congruent with that different way of living, so that we can unfold with much greater grace and ease into what we are meant to be, and to enjoy ourselves in the process of that discovery. So this law of least effort, not a law of no effort, but this law of least effort, is a little bit like what is expressed in the Tao Te Ching in these words: an integral being arrives without going, sees without looking, and accomplishes without doing. How does it do that? How do we do that? This law of least effort is based on the fact that nature's intelligence functions with effortless ease and abandoned carefreeness. And this is the kind of movement, this is the kind of energy that we want to step into and maintain in the living of our lives. To do that, though, we've got to understand, we've got to be aware of our own natural tendencies. We've got to be aware of our own natural style. Have you noticed that not everybody is exactly the same as you? Have you noticed that other people can see things totally differently than you? Have you noticed that other people's rhythms and cycles can be very different than yours? If you're by nature a much slower, more methodical, slower, careful-paced person, and you're with somebody that is a very quick, very fast-paced person, have you noticed that that presents a very different experience and quite an opportunity for growth? One doesn't fully understand the other. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, right? Not finding fault with one versus the other, but understanding ourselves. When we understand how we are, not how we present ourselves to the world, but how we actually are from the deepest part of ourselves, inside out, when we understand that and we honor that and work with it rather than against it, that's the key. Work with it rather than against it, we will find ourselves living out this law of least effort. It's not that we don't have some effort, it's that we don't have to expend more effort than is necessary to accomplish whatever it is that we want to accomplish. Doesn't that sound delicious? Wouldn't you prefer to spend the least amount of effort to accomplish what it is important to you to accomplish, rather than more effort than is necessary? Can I have an amen to that? Amen. Okay, me too, me too. In nature, it's called the economy of effort. In Vedic science, the old philosophy of India, it's called do less and accomplish more. I like that too. Do less and accomplish more. I like this point that Chopra makes in this chapter. He says that what is commonly called a miracle is actually an expression of the law of least effort. Think about that. What is commonly called a miracle, something that just seems to happen at the perfect time, in the perfect way, in the perfect place. What is commonly called a miracle is actually an expression of the law of least effort. Two important things about this law of least effort that we need to keep in mind are the role of love and the role or the challenge of ego, because they both impact, absolutely, I see some of you nodding, they both impact whether we will be living out of the law of least effort or not. Least effort, Chopra writes, is expended when your actions are motivated by love, because nature is held together by the energy of love. When you seek power and control over other people, you're wasting your energy. When you seek money or power for the sake of ego, you spend energy chasing the illusion of happiness instead of enjoying happiness in this moment. When your actions are motivated by love, your energy multiplies and accumulates. And the surplus energy you gather and enjoy can be channeled to create anything that you want, including wealth. Let me read that last statement again. When our actions are motivated by love, our energy multiplies and accumulates, and the surplus energy you gather and enjoy can be channeled to create anything that you want, including wealth. Think about when you are doing something that you love doing. How is your energy in that activity? Is it up or is it down? Does it take effort, a lot of effort, or does it seem to kind of just roll and flow? Right. Why? Because it's coming out of a qualitatively different energy, the energy of love, the energy that connects, the energy that uplifts, the energy that blesses, the energy that expands. This is why no matter what the task is that we're doing, when we're doing something that we love doing, we can do it for long periods of time, right? Without feeling how? Empty and depleted. Do you know that there are people who absolutely love gardening and pulling weeds and doing all that stuff? Do you know that there are people who absolutely love that? I know there's at least one person who doesn't totally absolutely love doing that. She's standing before you as I have been pulling out, I don't know how many square feet of dead red apple in my front yard. But I know that there are people on the planet who could be out doing that very same thing and can't wait to wake up the next morning and do it all over again. So for me, that activity is not one that comes effortlessly. I'm enjoying it for different reasons. I'm enjoying it for the satisfaction of a job done. I'm enjoying it for putting my bare feet in the soft earth. But I can't say that it would be my chosen vocation for the rest of my life. It would be a little bit like a square peg being forced into a round hole. It's okay to have activities in our lives that are not the ones that we absolutely, totally love doing. That's called adulthood, right? We all have stuff like that. However, if we really want to create a life that feels more joyous and full and works better and is more successful, we'd better be certain that those are the exceptions and not the rule. That we are not living the majority of our hours and days and weeks and months as a square peg trying to fit in a round hole. That we want to be looking at how do I do more of what comes naturally and easily and lovingly to me so that I can expand my sense of energy and have energy left over to do those other things that I sometimes have to do as well. Now, Chopra says the counterpart is look at what happens when we are motivated not by love in what we do, but are doing what we do motivated by ego. He writes, attention to the ego consumes the greatest amount of energy. When your internal reference point is the ego, when you seek power and control over other people or seek approval from others, you spend energy in a wasteful way. Would you not agree? Yeah, you spend energy in a wasteful way. When that energy is freed up, it can be rechanneled and used to create anything that you want. When your internal reference point is your spirit, when you are immune to criticism and unfearful of any challenge, you can harness the power of love and use energy creatively for the experience of affluence and evolution. So we want to notice when we are doing what is ours to do, how much of what we do is what we love doing or we can easily do with love versus how much of what we are doing is coming from ego. Because right there in looking at those two different dynamics, we will get a quick readout, if you will, a biofeedback readout of ourselves on whether we are operating with the law of least effort or we are expending a tremendous amount of effort and basically frittering away our energy and our creativity. He suggests that there are three ways to put this principle of do less and accomplish more into action. The first is the way of acceptance. The way of acceptance. Let me read to you what he writes about it. The first way is acceptance. This moment is the culmination of all the moments you've experienced in the past. Correct? This moment is the culmination of all the moments you've experienced in the past. It is as it should be because the universe is as it should be. Pause point. Sometimes we can say that and we wholeheartedly agree with it, right? And I bet that the times that we can say that we wholeheartedly agree with it, that we don't have any argument going on in our mind around it, is when what is what we want it to be, or close to what we want it to be. But we find that we argue with this when what is not the way we want it to be. It is as it should be because the universe is as it should be. He goes on to say, when you struggle against this moment, you're struggling against the entire universe. Has it ever felt that way to you? It sure has to me. When I've refused to accept in the moment what is happening in the moment, I can feel all the resistance in me, and I can feel the expenditure of energy. And on an energetic level, I think he's right. It feels as if I'm struggling against the entire universe. He continues to say, acceptance simply means that you make a commitment. Today I will accept people, situations, circumstances, and events as they occur. It means I will know that this moment is as it should be because the whole universe is as it should be. I can wish for things to be different in the future, but in this moment, I accept them as they are. I can wish for them. I can work toward them. I ought to work toward them to be different in the future. But in this moment, in the midst of my disagreement with this moment, in the midst of my not liking what's going on in this moment, I must find a place where I can stop the resistance to it. And the opposite of resistance is acceptance. I accept that it is as it is right now. I stop fighting against what is now as I work toward what is it that I do want to bring forth, and how can I take a step in that direction with effortless effort, not resistance. Can you feel into the very subtle but the really important difference there? There's still the effort to bring about something new, something preferred, but we're not spinning our wheels energetically resisting what is. When we are resisting what is, it is as if we are denying that it's right here, when in fact it is what? Right here. Okay? And then he says the second is responsibility. And this should be oh so familiar to us in metaphysics, because we know that we are co-creators with Spirit. We know that everything is created twice. It is first created in the invisible, mental, ideological realm before it can ever be made physical or made manifest. To accept responsibility doesn't mean that we are blaming ourselves. It means we are holding ourselves accountable. To accept responsibility is to stop blaming other people and other situations for where we are in our lives right now. It's to acknowledge that at every moment in our lives, we have a choice to respond to whatever is happening externally in whatever way we want to. The challenge for us is too often we have stimulus, an event happens in life, and a reaction, which we talked about last week, the knee-jerk reaction like that, and we think, because it happens so quickly, that it is automatic, that we are powerless. But that's not true. We are incredibly powerful. But the power comes in the gap. The power comes in the gap. The power comes in that moment that we separate stimulus from response. And in that moment that we make that separation, in that gap, we have the ability to make a different choice. That is the ultimate acceptance of responsibility. When we talk about responsibility, we must never use it as a metaphysical way of beating ourselves over the head and punishing ourselves. We want to look at responsibility as an empowering experience. Oh, I can make a different choice here. I am responsible. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And the third, he says, is defenselessness. Defenselessness. He writes, this means that you have relinquished the need to convince or persuade others of your point of view. Most folks spend a tremendous amount of time defending their points of view. If you relinquish this need, you will, in that relinquishment, gain access to enormous amounts of energy that have been previously wasted. Defensiveness creates resistance. Think about that for a moment. Is that not true? Defensiveness creates resistance. Resistance creates friction. What does friction do in a mechanical system? Heats. And what does it also do in a mechanical system? I'm hearing it wears it down, right? It wears it down. To live with greater fluidity is to live in such a way that our resistance is not wearing us down. It is, as Chopra is suggesting here, the way of defenselessness. Defenselessness. So he gives us a lot of homework to practice here. He gives us looking at, are we operating from a place of love or ego? Do we know who and what we are so that we can be more true to ourselves, and to the degree that we are more true to ourselves and to the degree that we act and operate more naturally with who and what we are, to that degree, our life begins to flow and feels less of an effort and less of a struggle. And then he tells us to practice acceptance, to practice responsibility, to practice being defenselessness. That's quite a lot of homework. Would you not agree? So let me close with just a few words from him. He says, make a commitment to follow the path of no resistance. This is the path through which nature's intelligence unfolds spontaneously without friction or effort. I like that. This is the path through which nature's intelligence unfolds spontaneously without friction or effort. I want the wisdom of nature, the wisdom of the universe to unfold through me spontaneously without friction or effort. How about you? Would you like that? It says, when you have the exquisite combination of acceptance, responsibility, and defenselessness, you will experience life flowing with effortless ease. When you remain open to all points of view, not rigidly attached to only one, your dreams and desires will flow with nature's desires. Then you can release your intentions without attachment and just wait for the appropriate season for your desires to blossom into reality. You can be sure that when the season is right, your desires will manifest. This is the law of least effort. This week, notice when you are really efforting. And when you notice, if you notice that you are really efforting, take just a moment to ask yourself, what's going on here? What am I operating from? What am I not putting into practice? Just notice. Your life will always, always, always show you who you are, what you're doing well, and where you need to grow. And it's done with love. It's absolutely done with love. So enjoy the looking and relish the growing. Namaste.